Hey, Lindsay, how are you?
I'm doing excellent, Michelle. What is shaking in your world? What's going on? How you doing?
Woo! I am busy, 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 but I am good. I'm
Really?
happy about summertime and all that, but lots of changes, lots of
Yes.
craziness, but everything is good. What about you? How are you?
I'm doing great. I am doing fantastic. I'm getting ready to go to a birthday party this weekend,
Oh.
which maybe we'll work that into another episode, but I'm going to be dressing as Nicolas Cage and I can't wait. I can't
Okay,
wait.
I've got to see a picture of that. I got to see
Yeah,
a
yeah.
picture of that.
Good stuff.
But Lindsay, I have a question for you. Has anyone done anything to you recently that was out of line?
Oh, it's a great question, Michelle. You know what? I've been pretty lucky in my life
Mhm.
so far. People are generally pretty nice, nice and respectful. I can't nothing comes to mind. And
That's
I'm so
good.
grateful. What about you?
Same here. I'm sure there's something.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I agree. I also am very grateful. Things have been good. So, yeah. But we're going to talk about this more today. We're going to be sharing 3 idioms that go with the word line. So, but before we get to that, we have some key Spotify poll results to share with you. This is fun. So, guys, if you haven't heard, basically every few episodes we have, well, every episode we have a poll, but some episodes we really announce the poll. And if you're listening on Spotify, you can answer this poll and then we will share the results with you. So these are really fun. It's a great way to interact with you guys.
And I love this question because
Yes.
most people in the world have a former relationship, like an ex. We talked about an
Hmm.
ex, ex
Hmm.
boyfriend, ex girlfriend, whatever. And our question was, Michelle, is it okay to stay friends with your ex?
Yes.
Okay.
And this was from
Yes.
episode 2182, which was X versus Old, how to talk about former relationships in English. So that was really fun. So definitely, if you haven't listened to that one yet, head on over there and listen. So is it okay to stay friends with an ex? Well, first of all, Lindsay, what would you answer? Yes or no?
I would say no,
Yeah.
until you're totally over them.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's a really bad idea to try to be friends right away because then there's still feelings. I think years later, fine.
Yeah.
You're moved on, you're 10 relationships later,
Right.
whatever, fine, but not right away. So,
Yeah.
what do our listeners think though, Michelle? That's what it's all about.
So I'm actually surprised by by this split. So as far as is it okay to stay friends with an ex? 46% of you said yes and 54% of you said no. So just slightly more for the no's. I thought we were going to get more no's.
Yeah, that is really interesting. There might be something cultural here. If
Yeah.
you're from a small town, maybe you can't avoid it,
Could,
right?
yeah,
Fascinating. Oh
could
my
be.
gosh.
Yeah, so that's interesting. So
Yeah.
all right, well, let's head on over and start with the idiom. So with line, these can all be used basically in arguments or setting boundaries. So that's the general theme. When we think about a line, we're kind of
Uh-huh.
drawing this line and it sets something up. The line
Yes.
is like a metaphorical boundary.
Right. Okay. I think when I think of line, I think the lines of a tennis court, right? It sets a
Right.
boundary between what's in and what's out. Right?
Right, right, right. Or I've been watching
Mhm.
a lot of basketball and you could say out,
Oh.
yeah, out of bounds, out of bounds. Lindsay, I know your team is having a little bit of trouble.
Yes, there was a
Um,
lot of anger in my house last night. Was it
I
last
was
night or the
there.
night before?
I
There
I
was
I every time that comes on, I think of you. I'm like, I
Oh, of
really do
course.
every time with Denver, yeah.
And
So
then there's
anyway,
hockey and all that good stuff, Michelle. It just goes on and on. Yeah.
yes, yes,
Oh gosh.
exactly. So
All right.
let's go through these. So the first one is out of line or over the line. So that's
Yes.
what we used in the beginning. So what does that mean?
Oh, I love this. I love this.
Mhm,
It means that something is not okay. Especially,
mhm,
the phrase "out of line," I think is a little more common,
mhm,
but stepping over the line makes
mhm,
sense too, right? Maybe someone
mhm.
got upset with you, they yelled at you, and you could say that their reaction was inappropriate. So
Yeah.
anytime someone has done something that is beyond what you think is okay, that is out of line, okay?
Mhm. Right,
Yeah.
right, exactly.
Mhm.
Actually, this makes me now that I'm thinking of it, it makes me think of a Friends episode. I can't remember what was going
Yeah.
on, but I can give you the entire quote. I remember it was Joey, and he said, "Over the line, you're so far past the line, you can't even see the line is a dot to you." Basically,
Oh, Joey. We love
yeah.
Joey. Love
Right.
it.
So I think I just quoted pretty much exactly. Guys, if you
Yeah.
know that episode, let me know. So, but an an example from us is I know I was late, but it was totally out of line for him to threaten to fire me.
Right, so what he did was totally inappropriate. To threaten to fire is something you obviously shouldn't do as a manager or a boss, so
Yeah.
it's out of line, okay?
Right. Right. It's just
Mhm.
it's past that boundary of it's
Yeah,
just not an okay reaction, an okay thing to
yeah,
say for that. Yeah.
yeah. Mhm,
Yeah.
and then, Michelle, just to go back to over the line, did we wanna build that out? I mean,
Sure, we can talk
would you
about
say
over
s
the line.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
so it's the same idea, right? You're someone is over the line. Something they've done is over the line, they've crossed the line. Well, wait,
The
that's the next one.
I would say, like, "Oh, you've stepped over the line with
You've
this."
said
I think it's a
yeah.
little less common,
Yeah.
but anyways, let's move on. You're right. Cross the line is more common,
Yeah.
Michelle, right?
Cross the line.
So, you've crossed the line. To go past what is okay. Again, very similar to be out of line, it's just that we need to pair this with the right grammar, guys.
Right,
Uh,
exactly. So out of line is more of the adjective, right? Someone
right.
is
You're
out
out
of
of line.
line or
Yeah.
something is out of line. But to cross the line is you
Yes.
will then become out of line. Cross
You
is the verb form.
Exactly. So, for example, she crossed the line when she started yelling. It was totally unnecessary. Guys, I hope you are writing these down. This is gold, Michelle. Gold.
Gold. So, yeah, to cross the line. So you could have said she crossed the line. It was out of line. You're not gonna use both of those, but just to give you an
Right.
idea, it's the same idea.
And from
Okay.
here,
Okay, well, we're gonna share one last one, and we're gonna, change it up a little bit. This is slightly different, but it's very useful and very common. So this is a fine line.
yes.
Lindsay, what do you think of this
Mm.
one?
Love it. I like this one. I think this
Mhm.
will be a very useful tool for our listeners to have in their back pockets to kind of parse differences between things, explain nuances, right?
Yeah.
So it means there's a barely any difference between something and something else. It's really
Mhm.
more figurative than literal,
Mhm,
right? We
mhm,
use it to talk
mhm.
about abstract
Yeah.
concepts. There's a fine line. For example, there's a fine line between X and Y.
Right.
Okay.
So that's often the grammar, the structure, how it's used often. There's actually an Avenue Q song. Avenue Q is a,
Yeah, I've
uh
seen Avenue Q.
oh, you
Yeah.
have?
Yeah. When I lived in New York, I saw it. It's great. Yeah.
It's
Like,
so good, and there's a song
uh,
called "There's a Fine, Fine Line," and, yeah, if you just so you know, Avenue Q is not for kids, even though there's puppets.
right, right. It's a puppet show for adults, let's say. It's
Yes.
it's a Broadway show, right? It was on Broadway. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think.
oh,
Yeah,
it won the
yeah.
Tony for Best Musical. I know
Yes.
this because I was in high school, I guess, and I remember I was very
Oh.
excited.
Oh,
At the
interesting.
time,
Okay.
I was a very big theater geek.
Really? That's so funny. I mean, Broadway is the best, right? Going to New
Yeah,
York, experiencing Broadway. Oh, so great. So great.
yeah,
All right. So let's give some examples about fine line. What
m'kay,
would be the first one, Michelle?
okay. There's a fine line between being excited to share a story and rudely interrupting someone.
Yeah, this is really interesting, right? So you're expressing that you can easily tip from one into the
Yeah,
other.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Another one, there's a fine line between working hard and being a workaholic. Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah, right, it's hard to tell the difference. The line oh,
Yes.
another one we shoulda done is, blurred lines or blurry the lines are blurry.
The lines get blurry, the lines blur. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to
Mhm.
see the difference. Or the next one is, Lindsay, I think this is for the 2 of us. There's a fine line between liking coffee and being addicted to it.
Yeah, and Michelle, I realized, last week when I came back from my trip to Panama that there is that fine line, and then I'm going to pull back a little bit, and so now I'm just having 2 cups of coffee a day instead of 3.
Oh, well, that's good.
Just
It's
pulling back. Yeah.
Well, now I'm finding an issue with, the coffee situation is number 1, like I said, I'm a little bit tired, so sometimes I'll want more, but then okay, so here's an example. There's a fine line between having your coffee for energy and then getting too jittery.
Oh, I
right?
agree. Often it depends on what you've eaten. At least in my case, if you've eaten a meal, I get less jittery. But if I have an empty stomach and I'm drinking on an empty stomach, I can get very jittery. So,
And it's a terrible feeling
mm,
when that happens, when
oh
when you feel like, "I
yes.
overdid it. I crossed the line. I had too much coffee."
I love this expression because there's so many things you could
Yeah.
explore here and kind of about the human mind too.
Yeah.
Like working
Yeah.
hard. There's a fine line again between working hard and being a workaholic. You can easily tip into that. If you love your work and you have a hard work ethic, a good work ethic, you could become a workaholic,
Right.
right?
And I
Interesting.
think with using this expression just shows that you're really observing things, and
Oh my
you're
gosh.
and you're taking your thinking to the next level. You're making connections. So
Yes.
it was interesting to come up with the examples for this actually. Oh,
It
it's a fine
yeah.
line, you know.
I think it's really interesting. I think it shows self-awareness. I would
Yeah.
recommend guys using this to if you are using it to reflect on human habits or the state of the human mind, habits and things, talk about
Yeah.
yourself, right? "Oh,
Yeah.
I cut back on my coffee because I realized there's a fine line between
Ah,
loving
nice.
coffee and becoming addicted, so I'm
Yeah.
gonna have 2 cups a day." Right? So
Yes.
maybe not saying to this other person, lecturing them, right? We're avoiding that
Right.
probably.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, exactly. So, but Lindsay, which of these 3 is your favorite?
Oh, geez. I really like fine line, like I
Me
said, because
too.
it gets us into more interesting conversations. I
Yeah.
love anytime I can connect with someone over the state of the world, the state of being
Yeah.
human,
Yeah.
just being alive in the world is more interesting to me to talk about than
Yeah.
everyday events. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And you can use it for so much. You can use it to talk about, to comment on something in the news. You can use it to talk
Yes.
about something in the workplace. I mean, it's just endless ways to use it. And whenever somebody uses it, it does sound smart. It sounds
It
that
does.
they've
It
made an
does.
observation and unique, you know.
Well,
So
because
I like it.
I think it's because that is the reality of life, is that it's
Hmm.
all about nuances.
Hmm.
Geopolitically speaking, there's a fine line between, an agreement and going into a war, right? There's,
Hmm.
you're always walking the line. This is what diplomats do, right?
Hmm.
There's nuances in life. It's nothing is black and white. And so
Yeah.
that's where it comes in.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Good. All right.
Mhm.
So we have the same favorite.
Okay. So I want to take a second, Michelle, before we go into our
Yes.
role play to call out one of our reviewers. And this person, Nazreen17698 from the US, left us 5 stars.
Ooh.
Thank you to Nazreen. Guys, we read all of your reviews. So if you love All Ears English, let us know. Ask your question, write in your review, and maybe you'll get your name read aloud on the show.
Yes.
All
Yes.
right.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much to Nazreen. Really, we appreciate it so much.
Yeah, role play time. Let's
Let's
do
do
it.
it.
All right, so we are sisters here. We're talking about a family reunion. Wow. Okay.
Oh, okay. Here we
All
go.
right. Yes.
So I told Brett that we will come at 6, and then he blew up at me.
Whoa, that is completely out of line.
Absolutely. This time he's crossed the line. This is supposed to be a fun reunion. There's a fine line between being a little bit bossy and being completely rude.
Yes, this is over the line. Nice. So we are clearly upset with Brett. All right.
Brett! God,
Oh
don't
gosh.
like
Okay.
that guy. Sorry, if we have any
No.
listeners named Brett, we love you.
Yeah, we love you, of course. So you said, so I told Brett that we'll come at 6, and then he blew up. What do we mean by blew up, Michelle? I'm sure our
It's
listeners can tell. Mhm.
yeah, he just got really angry. Maybe he started yelling and getting really
Mm.
angry about it when it was
Yeah,
unnecessary.
loaded. Yeah, and then I said, "Whoa, that is completely out of line. He shouldn't have done that. He stepped over the line." Right?
Mhm, mhm, mhm. And then I said, "This time he's crossed the line. He went too far."
I love that. And then you said there's a fine line between being a little bossy and being completely rude, right?
Mhm.
You might also tack on just for conversationally, you might say, right? There's a fine line
Yeah,
between being a little bossy and being
right,
completely rude, right?
right.
Maybe we could do another episode about using that,
You
after
know.
different statements, right?
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
Mhm.
That's a good idea, Lindsay. Okay. Um, um, sorry, I just took that note down, guys, so you know in
Okay.
real time I'm getting ideas. Okay.
Yeah.
And then you said, "Yes, this is over the line,
This is over the line. And what do you mean when you say that again? What are you saying? You're saying
past what is okay."
Right, it's beyond what we will accept, right? Maybe Brett is going to be uninvited
Yep.
to the reunion, right?
Yeah, we're not gonna be talking to Brett after this.
No,
Yeah.
no, I see. Interesting. So, guys, remember, Michelle wrote down a episode idea. So go ahead and hit that follow button so you don't miss that episode, as well as so many others that are always coming out from All Ears English. And Michelle,
Yes.
nowadays we're publishing on Saturdays,
Yes,
right?
we are,
Yes,
that's true, that's fun, it's a fun different thing, so
super
that way
fun.
it'll let us be with you on your weekend, when you're getting
Yeah,
coffee, when you're walking to brunch, just turn
yeah.
on All Ears English.
So good. Good stuff. All right, Michelle, what's the takeaway for today?
Okay, well, these are all really useful common expressions. I don't think there was one that we taught that isn't used frequently. These are good for commenting on certain situations, maybe with a little bit of nuance, especially with fine line. But remember that idea of a boundary. That's going to help you with these idioms and just getting them into your head. The line is that boundary between what's okay and what's not okay, or what with fine line a little bit different. Just that it's like an invisible line of
There's a line.
it's hard to get in the tell the difference. So yeah.
Cross the line. Yeah, totally. Guys, life is about nuances. Nothing is black and white. And if you can
Mhm.
start to explore those in conversation around any topic, around friendship, around habits, around
Mhm.
geopolitics, there's so much we could do here with some of these expressions. Okay. So
Mhm.
enjoy
Mhm.
it, have fun with it, dig into it. Good
Yeah.
stuff.
All
All
right. This was
right.
fun, Lindsay, and guys, have a great day.
All right, Michelle, take care. Talk soon.
Bye.
Bye.